All right, JoeyRitter.com, on Twitter at Joey Ritter. Now, we've been fortunate over the years to have some great athletes stop by the show, but never a World Series champion. So very excited about that. And if that wasn't enough, this man also has a heck of a set of pipes and is currently the front man of a country music band. And very excited to have you. Brett Myers, thank you for being here.
Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So before we get into the line of questions, I just want to say a simple thank you. Thank you for being the first team to win a championship in my lifetime. I was 27 years old. Didn't think it would ever happen. You were responsible for it, so I thank you, sir.
Well, I didn't do it by myself. I know that. There's a lot of other guys out there that actually did do it. I could only do it once every fifth day, so I was glad to be a part of that team, though.
It was a heck of a cast. So let's wind the clock back a year prior to the big championship year, so 2007. Getting that final out to clinch the division, basically beginning a renaissance of years for Phillies teams to come. So you were the closer that year, and I'm really curious, is there any difference in strategy walking out to the mound in the first inning versus walking out to the mound in the ninth inning?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big difference. At least when you go out there starting, you start with a clean slate, and you have a chance for your team to battle through, 9 innings or whatever to try to keep it close, I guess you would say. In the ninth inning, there's really no room for error, no margin for error whatsoever. And there was a different strategy, and Tom Gordon Flash actually talked to me about how to be a reliever and stuff like that. So he was a big instrumental part of turning me into the closer that year, just with how to pitch with a 1-run lead, a tie ball game, or a 2-run lead or a 3-run lead. Like, it's completely different scenario of how hitters will approach you. So if you have more of a 2 to 3 run lead, more guys are more likely to take the first pitch and give you a strike. If you have a 1-run lead, all bets are on. The same thing with a tie ball game. They're up there to do their job. There's a reason why they're on that team, and they're up there to pinch hitter wise. You face them all later innings and stuff like that, and you just hope that your stuff's good enough that day to get those guys out. And, you blow some saves, you don't blow saves. Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes, it works out for you. And sometimes you don't have your best stuff. But, as a closer, it's that bulldog mentality. And I took that into starting as well. But I definitely love closing just because I enjoyed the anticipation that my name might get called to get up and play, as a chance to play every day. That's the reason I loved it with starting. I love starting too. I love just competing. But the 4 days down from starting really bugged me. Mentally, not more or less physically, but mentally, depending on how good a start I had, the days prior, you try to carry that over. A lot of the stuff as starting wise, you had to wait 4 days if you got your ass kicked.
Right.
As a closer, if I got beat that night, I knew the next night they'd still call my number, and I'd get to totally redeem myself, as the Dumb and Dumber quote goes. But that was, the difference between the two, and both of them were equally as fun. I enjoyed the chance after failure as a closer. I enjoyed getting a chance to redeem myself on the next night. As a starter, I had to sit there and listen to myself beat me up, and the media beat me up about how bad I was, for 4 days.
Yeah.
Which is fine, which
Right.
is fine. I mean, I'm getting paid to do a job, and I couldn't get my job done that night. It is what it is. But with that being said, is that the closer role was, they talk trash about me this night, and then the next night I come out and punch 3 guys out, and I'm a hero again.
Right.
So it was just kind of more of a mentality, a mental game for myself, more than it was. I beat myself up pretty good when I lost. So that was the toughest part about it. And, not only that, and, what the fans understand and stuff like that is that as mad as they were at me for not completing and my job and getting the job done, I was way more pissed off than they were.
Right. Yeah.
Trust me.
I know that to be a fact. So 2008, truly a magical year, and it felt that way even in spring training going into it. And one might make the argument that teams a few years after that might have been better on paper, but what do you think the 2008 team had that maybe those other teams didn't have?
Well, I think, honestly, from 2007, I think we learned. We were a young group. Most of us came up together, but we were kind of all in-house. We, came up through the farm system. And I think us getting swept by the Rockies really put a bitter taste in our mouth. I know it did me. And that was like our first time getting the playoffs, and I never really got the opportunity to get out there and compete as much because we were losing or whatever. But just like the consensus of it was overwhelming, I guess you would say, for us. And then the next year we're just like, we've been there.
Right.
Like we're going for it. We don't care. It ain't. You put us in the playoffs now and watch us. And I think that was kind of an eye opener for us in 2007. It's a shame that we couldn't, get it done. The Rockies were hot that year. They had great young pitching, and they faced us in the shadows, which at Citizens Bank Park, no excuse, but them shadows are tough.
Yeah.
When you're playing 4:00 games and guys are throwing 100, it's not easy to play. So with that being said, that I think that put a little fire in our asses the next year coming in, and that's why Jimmy came out and said we're the team to beat, because we felt like we were, and we were pretty bitter to the fact that we couldn't get to that next stage. And at that year, in 2008, I mean, for me personally, that was one of my favorite years of my career.
Mm-hmm.
Not one of my best years, but it pushed me from being the closer to coming back as a starter and getting my ass kicked all over the NL East and all over the National League and American League, to getting sent down to coming back to winning a World Series. It was one of the best years of my entire life because it was perseverance in there, and there was also a championship in there. So it was kind of like, if I put my mind to anything, I know I can accomplish it. And the one thing was my mind in 2008, and I still kick myself for this. When I started the season, I felt like I should still be the closer, and I was being selfish. Then as I looked for an answer to, get sent to the bullpen to not hurt the team anymore, they ended up sending me down, and that's when I had to put my selfishness aside and figure out what was best for the team.
Right.
And that's exactly what catapulted me into coming back in the second half of the season and just pitching for them, not for me. Exactly. More than anything, it was pitching, and not that I wasn't a team player before, but it was just that I was a little selfish because I thought I should be the closer still, even though Lidge went 40 for 40, which made me look like a dumbass anyway. But that's cool. But that's I was being selfish. I was being a whiny little brat because I didn't get my way, and it showed the first half of that season. And I went down, and I basically got my shit together, and came back and had a great second half and ended up winning World Series.
Right. So you came back, you had a great win-loss record heading into the playoffs. Now, in the playoffs, you had, one of the greatest walks in team history. And it's interesting because I actually watched that recently, even before I reached out to you before the interview. And even the edited version of that video is still a nail-biter.
Right.
So against, the powerhouse of CC Sabathia, you've played in both leagues. Do you prefer the pitcher batting or the DH?
Well, you mean like pitching wise, or me competing as a hitter wise? Like
I like to hear both sides. Yeah.
Okay, so as a pitcher, I definitely hated the DH.
Uh-huh.
Well, just because and even in the National League, like, you feel like that you can have a batter off in the American League. Was that a beer?
No, it's Red Bull.
Oh,
I
Oh well,
feel like
this is a
I
beer.
should be drinking beer, but
This is a
there you
beer.
go.
Anyway, so what I'm getting at is that in the American League, where you had to face 9 good hitters, at least in the National League, I could have maybe possibly take a hitter off.
Hmm.
Like you knew there was a unwritten rule, I guess you would say, in the National League. At least every team that I played on National League made the pitcher take a strike first pitch. They made you take a strike. Well, then I just throw 2 curveballs to the guy and say, "See you later."
Uh-huh.
But there was a little strategy to that too. If a guy had a curveball that day that I was facing, and I threw him a fastball, strike one, then curveball, I was basically setting him up for him to throw me his curveball, and I would just sit on his curveball and try to slap the ball the other way, which is kind of funny because I didn't realize what I was doing until later in my career, and I just sit on curveballs. But if they had a slider, I was out. I was not looking to hit fastballs, put it
Right.
that way.
Right. Yeah.
But with the CC thing, like in high school, like I was a really good hitter. But as you go through the minor leagues and stuff, you don't hit. You don't get to see live pitching every day. You get to see it maybe in Double-A. You get to see it probably if your day falls on the day that you play a National League team in a National League park, you might get to hit, which
Right.
could not happen all year.
Wow.
And Triple-A was the same way. So then all of a sudden you get the big leagues. They're like, "Here, man, get up there and try to hit 98." I'm like, "I ain't hitting that. It ain't happening. Don't matter how many swings I take in the cage, I'm not hitting that. I haven't seen live pitching in forever." And then once every 4 or 5 days, you get to see live pitching, and you're supposed to go up there and hit it with some of the best in the game, and you're just sitting there going, "I don't know what to do."
Yeah.
But with CC, I knew what that walk was. There was no pressure on me whatsoever. It was on him more than anything. I guess it was a freak thing because he was having. I went into the game and I thought he was going to throw the first game, or just thinking that he would be on the first game with him and Hamels, and I got him second game. I'm like, man, I'm going to bow my neck this game, pitching wise more than anything, not hitting.
Right.
And then I go up to the plate with 2 outs. I guess runner him third or second and third, I think it was. No, it was running on third, and I'm just up there. Honestly, there was nothing going through my head. He got the first 2 strikes. I'm like, I'm going to give everything I got. They actually gave me the green light to swing first pitch through the whole playoffs, which was crazy because I went 4 for 5 on first pitches. And for the rest of the playoffs, the 4 hits I got were all on first pitch. And it was funny because they never let me swing the bat first pitch the whole year. And I hit like a 020 something or something. I don't even know if I got a hit, put it that way. But so with the CC thing, man, I was just up there, and I really it's like a blur. And I honestly, the guy is a Hall of Fame pitcher and a stud, man, and he had a freaking phenomenal half of the year with Milwaukee. And I was just thinking to myself, going, 2 hottest pitchers in baseball are coming into this, and we're going to see who's got the biggest balls, basically. Who's going to win this battle. And I knew it was going to be tough. And he was pitching on 3 days rest, like through the whole second half of the season. And it just kind of, I knew at some point it had to affect him. I'm not saying it did that day, but I know when I went up there, I felt like the crowd was so in it. My adrenaline was pumping so hard. I felt like every ball he threw me, even though it was like most of them were 97, 98, I felt like it looked like a beach ball up there.
Yeah.
I was living in the moment, and just kind of, like, who cares, man? Like, this is one of the best pitchers in baseball right now. And I'm up here just swinging like an idiot and luckily getting a bat on it.
You could kind of see the look on your face you were just kind of like, I don't know, you're kind of smiling as it was happening.
Yeah, and just because I love the competition, I was having a good time, and I was having fun with it, and because I knew my job was to give my team the best chance to win on the mound. It wasn't to drive in an RBI there. It would have been great to drive in an RBI there, but I knew that wasn't my job that particular time. I was there to, throw 7, 8, 9 innings and get people out and try to win a ball game.
Right.
And keep the momentum on our side because it was already 1-0 us at the
Yeah.
time. So
One thing I always think about, Brett, is I'm such a horrible sleeper. My mind's always racing. I'm always thinking about things, but I don't have millions of people watching me throw a baseball. I'm always so interested to know what's it like the night before, a World Series start or a playoff start, going to bed the night before.
nothing really. It was just honestly, it was like another game. In my opinion, I mean, honestly, I would go to bed. Some nights would be tough. I would just try to think about how to get the guys out. Like, what was my approach? And okay, and then just more things that would keep me up would just be I'd run through the lineup one time before I went to bed, and then go to bed. Just try to figure out, okay, this guy don't like this guy don't like that. Okay, but pitch to your strengths type stuff, and a lot of it, you rely on your catcher to help you remember stuff at times, and but it just early in my career, oh my God, I stressed the hell out about every game,
Right.
like every game, because I didn't want to fail, and because the hardest thing is not making it to the big leagues is staying in the big leagues, and I put a lot of stress and pressure on myself to be perfect every time out there. And one thing Cole Hamels taught me was that you would never know when he was pitching or not, which was kind of funny. The day when I pitched, everybody knew I was pitching. They're like, don't talk to him. He's
Yeah.
pitching today. Don't talk to him. Later in my career, after being with Hamels and stuff, it was kind of like I'm just putting too much pressure on myself, and then going out there and trying to overdo it instead of just trying to be myself and make pitches and learn how to pitch. So that was one of like the biggest things stress wise was early in my career. The older I got, it became like, let me see how calm I can go out here and compete at the same time,
Yep.
with a good chill attitude,
Takes years of experience. So
Right.
Playing in Philadelphia, I imagine interactions with the fans, you had peaks and valleys. What would you say your most unique fan experience was?
Probably jumping in the stands after '07 when we won it, because they beat the shit out of me, and I kind of loved it. I didn't care. They were hitting me in the ribs and punching me and everything, and I'm like, man, y'all really hate me, don't you? I just got the last out, and we're going to the freaking playoffs, and y'all are beating the hell out of me, which I didn't care at the time. I still don't care, but that's just like that tough love Philly atmosphere, man. But that's kind of the way I grew up anyway. I related with the Philly fans, for me at least, because I grew up with nothing, and my parents worked hard just to, I worked hard to get to the point to where I ended up in my career. It was that or nothing.
Right.
For me. It was play in the big leagues or nothing. That was like my only shot I felt in life. So I put every ounce of adrenaline and of my life into the game of baseball just so I could have that opportunity. And luckily enough for me, and fortunate enough for me, I was able to do it for a while.
Absolutely. Yep. So Brett, I've got a fan submitted question here, and they want to know, how accurate is the movie Bull Durham?
Oh, Bull Durham. Oh, shoot. I haven't seen that in quite a while. Are they calling me Nuke Lelouch and Crash? Is that what
I
they're
think
doing
just
right now?
referring to shenanigans in the minor league.
I have been called Nuke before. People have called me that before. They've also called me Kenny Powers, which is I don't do drugs, but I don't do half the stuff he did. But yeah, it's pretty good. The one of the most accurate ones that I would say, like, or at least my favorite one, is Major League.
Okay.
Like,
yeah.
I've saw that movie when I was 10 years old, and I've always wanted to be Wild Thing. I always wanted to be Rick Vaughn, but Bull Durham's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, that's I look at this. So my Bull Durham moment, I guess, because Tank Todd Pratt used to always call me Nuke Lelouch,
Right.
and I was like, okay, Crash, because it was kind of like the same conversation we'd have. And I remember I'd get a 3-0 count on a guy, and Flash would just sit, or Tank would just sit there and like, come on, throw it, just throw it. And he'd sit right. I'm like, okay, yes, sir. I'm going to throw it now. It was almost the same. So yeah, I have had that Bull Durham moment in the big leagues with Tank behind the plate, Todd Pratt, and it's pretty real.
I think real life baseball does translate well to the movies.
It does. Well, I mean, you got to figure maybe some of those people have guys that have played before, helping them go through it. There's no way Major League can be that close. Other than the red tags when I got there, but I'm sure it was that way in the 90s.
Yep.
Red tags. So, but yeah, that was it was pretty close. I did have my Bull Durham moment in the big leagues with Todd Pratt quite a few times because I didn't want to piss Tank off. I wanted to make him think I was good. But there was a lot of times I shook him off, and then it got hit out, and he'd almost want to throw his glove at me.
Yeah.
I'm like, did you tell him it was coming?
All right, so let's shift gears and talk music here because I really enjoyed kind of diving into the catalog, and you're just cranking out albums. I mean, by my count, you've got 4 albums in the last 5 years, which I don't care who you are. That's an insane turnaround there.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do when I got done playing baseball. I know I tried to do the lessons and I have kids and I coach them and stuff like that. And I didn't really know what was going on or whatever. But my last year in 2013 with the Indians, I got hurt and I tried to pitch through it, which is stupid of me, but I was more hurting the team than I was helping the team at the time. Another selfish thing that I did in my career or whatever, but I just didn't want to stay back and rehab. I mean, that's the loneliest time you've ever had in your life. Trust me, nobody wants to talk to you. But throwing in 2013 and trying to come back and everything and rehab my arm and try to get back and pitching again. I played guitar. Started playing guitar in 2002 with
really?
Kevin Camasholi, which is the video guy for the Phillies still. And we would always mess around. He'd teach me some things. So in 2013, I was like, man, I think I want to write my own song. So I called one of my buddies who lived in Chicago, and he wasn't doing anything. And he played in the band Nonpoint for quite a while. And he's like, I'm not doing nothing. I was like, well, come here and just hang out with me because I'm bored. It was just me in this house, in this like 3-bedroom house. And, my family wasn't there yet because they were still in school. And I was like, just come stay with me, man. We'll write some songs and goof off or whatever. So that's kind of where it started. And I did like 3 songs. And then I came home and kind of never really officially retired. But I would say probably in end of 13, maybe early 14, I got with a buddy of mine that I didn't know was my buddy. We actually weren't buddies in high school, and I don't remember him at all. Apparently, I threw at him in a scrimmage game because he said something smart mouth to me. And I was a senior, and he was like a sophomore, and he was on JV, so I think we scrimmaged our JV. According to him, we scrimmaged a JV team, and he was the leadoff hitter, and I drilled him right in the back for him popping off to me about something. I don't know what it was. He might have told me to kiss his ass or something. I don't know. But I was pretty mean dude with the ball on the mound. I didn't like the way he looked at me apparently, and I hit him. And so he's telling me this story. Anyway, long story. He's a producer.
Okay.
And he played in Puddle of Mud. He was a bass player in Puddle of Mud, which I didn't know. And he had Band Society Red and Burn Season, stuff like that all signed bands that he was in. And I hit him up on Facebook one day and I said, hey man, I got these 3 songs. I see that you're a producer. And I didn't know we went to school together or nothing. I saw he was friends with my brother or something like that. And he's like, yeah, man, you're the guy that drove me in the back. And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't know you from Adam. And so anyway, we formed a pretty good relationship. And I let him listen to these 3 songs. He said, let's play golf. So I let him listen to 3 songs playing golf. And it's like, dude, you got a good voice, man. Let's sit down write something. I said, okay. So I went over to his house and we wrote this song, Beer Hand Strong. And not one of my favorites, but I think it's clever. I was just a clever writer, I guess we'd say. And he he said, all right, get in the booth and sing it. And I said, that ain't happening, buddy. I said, you were the singer of your two bands. You sing it. I just want to write the songs. He goes, it's your song. You sing it. I said, I'm leaving. So I left his house that night.
Wow.
Because I'm like, I'm not singing. I said, dude, I don't even sing in the shower, man. I'm not singing, man. I'm telling you, I'm not singing. And he goes, okay. So we became pretty good friends talking about it, just I guess he was more or less coaching me to try to get the courage up to come do it. And I said, I'm not singing that, dude. You just go ahead and sing it, and then we'll figure out what to do with it later or something like that. Maybe sell it to somebody. I don't know. And he goes, all right. So he goes, hey, man, I'm having, like 2-3 weeks later, he goes, I'm having some people over at the house. Why don't you come over and hang out with me? I'm like, okay. So I went over, chilled with him. All those people left kind of early, 8 or 9:30 at night or something like that. He goes, come on, let's go to the studio and drink some beers and have some cocktails. I'm like, all right, dude, cool, no problem. I get up there and we get to drinking. He's like, get in the booth, because I'm kind of buzzed. Like, get in the booth, man, and sing.
He knew
I'm
what
like,
he was doing there.
I don't care, man. This is karaoke time. Who cares, bro? Like, I'll sing some karaoke. I'm like, I don't even know the words. He's like, I'll put them on the screen for you. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I get in there and I sing the thing. And he's like, all right, so cool, man. That's good. And then next thing you know, he sends me the finished product the next day. And I'm going, you recorded that shit? So from that point on, because I was more afraid to sing in front of him than I was anything, because
Right.
I didn't want him, it's like the fear of failure is really tough for people,
Sure, especially
but
singing.
yeah, but I had a little liquid courage in me. I'm like, I don't give a shit what he says at this point. I don't care.
Are
At
are
that,
those demo tracks ever going to see the light of day?
no, it's recorded. It's
Oh,
out.
that's what's out.
It's on
Oh,
my
okay.
first album. It was the
Wow.
first song I ever did. Yeah, and, obviously I went back and re-sang it or whatever. But that was like the first song where I was sweating bullets in there. I mean, I was pitting out like crazy, freaking out, going. I just not less. Like, people like, what? How hard is it, man? You get up, you pitched in front of 40,000 people in the World Series, but you're scared to get on the stage and sing. I'm like, yeah, because if I screw up on singing on the stage, then that means the career's over.
Right.
If I go out there and mess up a game, then I'll pitch again in 5 days. If I screw up an event, all these people talk to each other like, this guy sucks. Don't ever have him back.
Especially
You
these
know,
days with everybody recording you on the cameras and such.
right? So it's kind of like, so. The next thing you know, we put out an EP with some funnier stuff that I guess, and I thought it was kind of clever. I wrote a song called Kegerator.
Right.
It was like the third song we did, I think. And one of my buddies, I guess, had said something to me about, a kegerator, and I started thinking I had one at my house, and I was sitting there because my wife always used to yell at me about beer cans in the trash can. I know it sounds stupid, right?
Yeah.
But she used to yell at me. She said, how many beers you drink last night? I'm like, I don't know, 8, 9. I don't know. Like, what does it matter? I was
Just
sitting
subtracted
there.
by 3, maybe.
Yeah. So what? But she's like, oh, you look like you had a case. I'm like, no, I didn't have that much. I promise. But so then it wasn't. It's not like I have a drinking problem or whatever. But she's just in there going, look at all these cans in here, and I'm like, yeah, but probably half of them are yours too. So then I did the song Kegerator, and it's about my wife counting how many beers I've had. So I bought a kegerator. Now she only sees 1 cup in my hand and has no idea how many that I've had. So
Good
I thought it
loophole.
was
I like
pretty
it.
clever. The only problem was one of my buddies called me up and he goes, dude, what are you doing? I said, what are you talking about? He goes, now my wife knows why I have a kegerator. Now she's starting to count how many times I go over to it. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I thought it was funny. I thought it was pretty funny and clever.
Yeah, he's got to fill
Uh,
up some jugs and figure something out. But
yeah.
the song Rattlesnake, that to me is the jam.
Oh, you like
Um,
that one? Huh?
that's like, can we peel back the onion on that one a little bit and talk about
Yeah.
the process? Because you have the
Yeah.
riff, the solos, the kick and beat, the kind of the rap part, and I'm just
Right.
curious how that came together.
Well, so I had a friend of mine, and I'm a fan of all kind of music, and I'd known Colt Ford for for probably since '04, '05. I'd known him for a while, and I'd always listen to stuff. That's kind of, not saying that he, made me write the music or whatever like that, but I started off with a song called "Don't It Feel Good to Be a Redneck." Like, don't it feel good? I had the idea came from buddies of mine that run a syndicated radio show called Lex and Terry, and they're like, you need to write something that's like rock, rap, edgy, something or whatever like that. So I kind of came out with "Don't It Feel Good," and then I did I dabbed into the country hick hop is what they call it, I guess you would say, at the time. So, and I did a couple with another country rap guy, Bottleneck, and then the Lax, who are pretty big. And so finally I called up Colt Ford. I sat on that song for a year. I wrote that song. We sat on that song for a year. My wife actually came up with that idea. I have to give her credit for it because, those Yeti cups that shake when they're empty with ice in it. She goes, "Oh, I got a rattlesnake." She didn't know that I was over there going, "Ooh,
Yeah.
I got an idea for a song now." So she's like, "I got a rattlesnake," and I was like, "Ooh," and then I was like turning into girls' booty shake type thing,
Right.
something like that, and like a good dance song or something or whatever, but country. So I come up with Rattlesnake, and then I sent it to Colt Ford, my buddy. I'm like, well, I said, I've been talking to him. I'm like, let's do a song together. And I said, I'll come up with something and I'll send it to you. And I sent it to him, and I just literally waited for a year to where he had time to throw a verse on it. And I mean, I was kind of over the song, after you hear a song 1,000 times, not necessarily that many times, but as a producer or as an artist, you listen, you get the final say of, okay, that sounds great.
Right.
So after hearing that song for so much, I was over it. Like, I forgot about it, but I knew I wanted him to rap on it. And he ended up getting to it. And then we shot a music video. He come to the house, shot a music video with me. And I was like, man, this is kind of cool, man. These are guys that I looked up to, and now I have songs with them. So obviously they thought that I was good enough to do a song with them.
Yep. So
Which,
the music videos, people can go to your YouTube page. You got a lot up there. I'd say the ladies that appear are welcome additions, as they say.
yeah.
Is there an audition process for these actresses, or are they just kind of ladies?
No, it's funny. It's kind of funny, man, because you have to have girls in your videos for people to want to watch them. I mean, look, man, it's sex sells, man. They say it all the time, right?
Yeah.
The only problem is I'm married with 4 kids. So
Right.
trying to run that by my wife is the hardest thing in the world to do.
Sure.
So with that Rattlesnake video, she was like, why is that girl always with you? I'm like, well, she's supposed to be with me, and the other one's supposed to be with Colt. That's like, we're acting here, babe. We're acting.
Just acting,
Like,
yeah.
this is acting. I don't even know her real name, okay? But it's funny because I don't know ladies like that. I don't have them in my phone to call them, but I have single friends that will call them. Or I was like, dude, I need some girls. We're doing a music video in 2 weeks. So I guess they're my pimps. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say, but they'll go to gyms or they're working out and they're like, hey, you want to be in a music video? And girls like, yeah, tell me where to go and where to be. So that's kind of how that came about with the Rattlesnake video. I had a buddy, actually his girlfriend knew them. One of them was a Jaguars cheerleader, which is cool. So yeah, it's some crazy stuff. So I got to walk on eggshells, man, when I do those videos with girls and especially those party ones.
Yeah. So you're sharing bills with some notable acts: Leonard Skinner,
Mm-hmm.
Travis Tritt. I mean,
Right.
Travis won Grammys. What are some takeaways that you're incorporating into your own live show after playing with these guys that have been doing it for decades?
Well, I'll tell you my main thought process is, and this might come off arrogant to people or whatever like that, but I call it necessary arrogance, I guess you would say, or people might say I'm cocky or whatever, but I call it necessary arrogance, is that my job every night is to go out there and kick their ass.
Right.
Like, be better than them. And I think most musicians will tell you the same thing. I'm not trying to say that they suck, but I want to make people go, they sucked compared to you. I mean, isn't that what your job is supposed to be? I mean, I guess, but I guess that's mainly what I've probably taken from the shows that I've played is, and they feel the same way, you know, like if I set the bar as an opening act, if I set the bar up here, then maybe I'll push them to be better. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I can tell you right now, those guys aren't arrogant people. Like, they're nicest that you could ever meet. Now, I've met some arrogant people that you know, that I've played shows with before, and I won't mention any names, but they just really rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm like, why do you got to be like that? Why do you think that you're much bigger than people? You know, like, why do you think you're better than people, or better than the low guy on the totem pole? You know,
Sure.
But I never had that problem with, you know, Johnny Van Zant gave us the opportunity to play with Skinner and stuff like that, and so he's always been like a humble guy and awesome, and I plan on being the same way with everybody, you know, with the music stuff and everything. But the guys that think that they're bigger than they are, and they're really like strung out, and they aren't very good anymore, and nobody cares to see them, type of the people that really piss me off. Even though I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God, dude, I got to meet you. That's awesome." They're like, "Get away from me."
Right. I mean, I've interviewed all kinds of different people on this show, and even you know, the higher profile people have been the most down to earth and nice, and then the up-and-comers have been the ones that have been kind of snobby.
Well, the one thing is I that I've always told myself, and I try to live by it, I'll never forget where I come from, and I know what I came from. A lot of other people don't know what I came from, or what my path through my life has been, easy, hard, whatever. You know, it just, you know, people assume too much about certain things, and you know, I don't ever forget where I came from. So like all my old buddies and stuff I went to high school with, still talk to. Man, you won a World Series. I'm like, so what? I'm still the same dude that you knew in high school.
Yeah.
You know, just a little fatter. You know?
I think that's why you meshed so well with Philly. You know what I mean? So Brett, you know, we're gonna wrap this up and let you go. But once the world kind of comes back and is ready for concerts and large gatherings again, what's next for Brett Myers and the Backwoods Rebels?
Well, unfortunately, all of our concerts have been canceled this year, which sucks. But you know what? It's, you know, for people's safety or whatnot. We'll get back to it hopefully next year. But you know, we're starting on our fifth album. So we got time to start working on that, and actually plenty of time because we're not going to be touring for the rest of the year. So, but yeah, so we're going to start working on a fifth album, and we got some great ideas in the books now, at least to us. Hopefully people out there will like it. So that's our plan.
Yeah. Summer's coming up, you know, people might not be getting out as much as they usually do, but your music is a perfect summer soundtrack. So
yeah,
people can go to brettmyersmusic.com on Instagram. Yep. You're at Brett Myers Music 39. And my favorite place to follow you on Twitter at Backwoods Rebel 39.
Yep.
Brett.
Twitter doesn't, nobody ever likes to see that stuff, but I put it on there.
Brett, thanks again for doing this. I appreciate it.
You got it.
I hear that rattlesnake. I know you're ready for another drink. Go ahead and fill that Yeti cup up in the back of my truck. Let's see that booty shake, just like a rattlesnake. All right, I'm here. It's time to go. Let's take this show out.